to the community. Before we begin, we'll just go over a few important housekeeping rules. So firstly, we kindly ask all participants to mute themselves. If you have any questions or comments, please use the chat function. We'll address them if we have time during the Q&A part of the webinar. Remember that this webinar will be shared and will be available in the coming days. So we're recording this webinar. For the interpretation, we have interpretation available today in Spanish, Portuguese, and French. And for that, you can just click the interpretation tab and select your required language. If you are having any issue hearing the interpreter, then or the speaker, then you can try to mute or unmute the original language audio so that it can be easier for you to hear. And if you have any technical issues, please don't hesitate to write in the chat. We can try and do something on our side. We thank you for your cooperation and for being here in this important webinar. And to start the webinar, let me introduce Ms. Sandra Yepes, the co-coordinator of the Children Solution Lab program, for the opening remarks. Sandra, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Verica, and thank you all. Good afternoon and good evening to all of our distinguished speakers, our audience. Thank you very much for joining us today. I'm very excited to welcome you to this event. And before we begin, I kindly request the cooperation of our audience in refraining from any direct interaction with our younger speakers. As you know, we have people here under the age of 18. So to ensure a safe and respectful environment for them, I invite you to post your questions or any comments on the general chat that we have, and then our moderator will transmit them to the speakers. And to our younger speakers under the age of 18, just a reminder that I am your designated safeguarding focal point. So feel free to reach out to me at any time of this dialogue. If you need any assistance or support, I'm here for you. So as Verica said, I am a program officer at Arigatou International, and I have the privilege of being one of the coordinators of the Children Solutions Lab program. This is an amazing program that we launched in 2020 to promote child participation. So first, for the ones who don't know, let me share with you a little bit about our organization. I will start sharing my screen now. So we are Arigatou International, and for the ones who don't know, Arigatou International is a non-profit organization that works with people from different walks of life, different religions, different cultures, to promote interfaith and intercultural dialogue for the well-being of children and promote child rights. And as I mentioned, we have this amazing program, the Children Solutions Lab, that in 2020, we decided to explore new ways to empower children to bring positive contributions to their communities. So we were wondering how we could effectively promote child participation, and we came up with this experiment, this laboratory of children, of solutions coming from children. So we launched an open call for applications in 2020 to provide a small financial aid and mentoring to projects that aim at tackling child poverty at community levels and challenge social and cultural norms that could affect the well-being of children. So those were the projects that we were aiming at supporting with financial aid and with mentoring. And the main criteria was that these projects, to be selected, they had to be conceived, designed, and implemented by children. This was the main criteria. So in 2020, through this process, we supported 5 groups of children in 5 different countries. Then we launched another call in the following year, in 2022, and supported other 5 groups of children. In total, we empower 120 young change makers in 10 countries, and through their actions, they managed to benefit with their actions, with their innovative projects. They managed to benefit 3,000 children in their different communities through different initiatives. So today, we have the privilege of having here the leaders of 4 of what I think the most remarkable projects that were supported through this process, during this process. So our younger speakers are Shak from Armenia, Maria Eduarda from Brazil, and Nadia from Niger. They will share with us today their experiences and their learnings in implementing child-led projects in their respective countries. And most importantly, they will share with us the challenges and the obstacles they encounter along their journeys. And we believe that the insights that our young speakers will share with us today will help us understand how we, as community members, as faith leaders, as organizations or educators or parents, how we can support and empower children and young people to become agents of change. Because our young speakers will help us, I believe, they will help us understand why it is so crucial that children and young people have leading roles in society and that we work across generations to build a better and safer, a more peaceful world for all. So I think we have a lot to learn from our younger speakers today about child participation and meaningful child participation. And as we believe in the power of intergenerational dialogue, we have invited for this dialogue today also 2 adults from the Arigatou International family. The first one is Reverend Fred Nyabera. He is the Executive Director of Arigatou International Nairobi office that covers the End Child Poverty Initiative. And we also have Mrs. Eleonora Mura, who is the Head of Partnership and Development for Arigatou International. And they will build upon the reflections of children today. And they will contribute their insights on how meaningful child participation and youth participation can first promote ethical values that are essential for social cohesion, for promoting peace, and how this meaningful involvement of young people can also be an effective strategy to address child poverty. So by incorporating their perspectives, we aim at fostering a deeper understanding of the transformative power of child participation and its potential to drive positive change. And to make this dialogue even more enriching and more meaningful, we have the privilege of having Mrs. Ikram Mohammed as the moderator of this dialogue. Ikram, besides being a long-lasting friend of Arigatou International, she's a girls' rights champion and a young change maker from Kenya. And in 2020, when she was still under the age of 18, when she was still a child, she was part of the awardees of this program, the Children's Solutions Lab. And she led a wonderful project to raise awareness about the negative impacts of child marriage in a rural area of Kenya. So we are thrilled to have her guiding our conversation today and sharing her valuable perspectives during the webinar. So without further ado, I now pass the floor to Ikram. And I wish you and all our distinguished speakers and audience a very fruitful and thought-provoking dialogue today. So thank you, and over to you, Ikram.
Thank you so much, Sandra. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for taking time out of their day to join us today. Thank you so much, everyone. And without wasting any time, I'd like to welcome our first speaker, who is Arshak from Armenia, to present his project. Arshak, welcome.
Hello, thank you very much. Before talking about our main topic today, I would like to speak about the process of founding our project in the name of Home of the Sun. It goes back to 2020. during the beginning of the Armenian-Azerbaijani war, and which lasted 44 days and left its trace. And during that period of time, many Armenians, including me, and many children, and also the main founder of our project, Niger, had, of course, our losses. And as we all know, that in such cases, children become the most wounded layer of the society, and that's why that brought us to the idea of creating a little spark of hope in such dark and harsh times. That was Home of the Sun. So first of all, our main goal was to help children included in the project to overcome the fears and also the psychological problems. And then secondly, to enlarge the group and help many others that were physically, sadly, not able to be with us directly. So now a little bit about what we generally did and to this day keep doing. We do art. We help children through art, recycling, and painting, sewing, knitting, and etc. And day by day, the idea of helping more people grew larger, and we had an idea of our first big project that was Harvest. It was realized, of course, with the help of Gods and Company in the name of Arigatou International, which we are very thankful to, and their kind staff. The project took place in summer of 2022, consisting of many children and some adults. And I myself was also in the group of the adults. We organized the process of harvesting, drying fruits, vegetables, cooking jam and sauces, and much more. The whole result was shared among the poor children and the families that lived in poverty. And the nicest thing was that they couldn't believe that the people helping them were the children who had lost fathers, brothers, and some even homes. And the result of the donations was incredible. And but an even bigger achievement for us was the first and foremost the people that joined our team for their activities and projects, and secondly the perspectives that were changed during the whole process, and last but not least the lessons that we all learned and the experience that every single one of us maintained. So the hard work that we all put was truly contagious, and it became an addiction. And I would like to just speak about what we learned overall. It's no matter how difficult the current situation of a person can be, if we don't water our dirt and mud, it doesn't become a beautiful garden. So we have to help others to help that way ourselves. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Arshak, for presenting that wonderful project. I'd get back to you. I'd like to invite Maria. Maria, I'd like to invite you to present your project.
Olá a todos. Quero agradecer primeiramente por essa oportunidade, porque, enfim, foi bem uma surpresa para a gente ter ganhado o concurso. Mas, brevemente explicando, a gente veio com essa proposta por conta da nossa educadora Bruna, e uma das nossas colegas, a Maria Luísa, mora em Parelheiros, que é um bairro aqui, um distrito aqui de São Paulo, e lá ela viu um córrego a céu aberto, e como todos sabem, um córrego é assim algo muito ruim para a sociedade, porque as pessoas ali podem pegar doenças, o mau cheiro e entre outros fatores. E aí a gente abraçou esse projeto da gente tentar melhorar aquela situação. E foi muito assim difícil, mas o projeto inicial era pegar 5 encanamentos das 5 casas que tinham perto do córrego e assim acoplar em um cano para que ele pudesse escorrer na outra obra que já existia no córrego. Bom, foi complicado, porque a gente não tinha tantos recursos para realizar esse projeto, então a gente teve que mudar muito a nossa proposta inicial, mas nós recorremos a políticos de bairros, que foi uma parceria bem grande com a gente, mas no final de tudo a gente não conseguiu realizar uma obra em si, mas a gente queria impactar de algum. Esse problema nesse córrego tem há muitos anos e nunca foi resolvido. O próprio líder de associação falou com a gente que eles tinham vários problemas em relação também à vulnerabilidade. Isso vem com a alimentação também. Então, para a gente realizar alguma
I think yes. I think she lost her connection. There you are.
Voltei, desculpa. Continuando, não foi o projeto que a gente queria assim, ter entregado na finalização, mas foi de fato algo que a gente aprendeu que nós precisamos buscar nossos direitos e tentar sempre melhorar a vida das pessoas, até porque não se trata só de interesses políticos, também trata de melhoria da saúde das pessoas e da vida também. Então, foi um grande aprendizado para o nosso grupo. E muito obrigada pela oportunidade.
Thank you, Maria, for sharing your project. It was very great of you to not give up, despite all the difficulties you faced during this time, and we commend you for that. Thank you. I'd like to welcome Nadia. Nadia, can you hear me? Welcome and share your project to us.
Oui, oui, je vous entends. D'accord.
Donc,
Bonsoir à tous. Moi, c'est
rappelle
Nadia, je suis du
la
Niger.
séance passée, l'enseignant
Je vais vous parler du contexte de notre projet. Qu'est-ce qui a fait que nous avons fait ce projet? Notre projet qui a pour thème la gestion de l'hygiène menstruelle et construction de toilettes dans notre école
avec les enseignants
est né à partir de deux
des
constats.
dépôts des activités sur la plateforme.
Le tabou qui tourne
Soit on ne
autour
le fait
des
pas dans le
menstrues
temps,
dans la
soit
communauté
on ne le fait même pas.
et qui
Donc,
impacte
c'est un
très
problème.
négativement les jeunes filles
Maintenant,
dans leur
quelle est
vie
la
en général
solution que, ici, là,
et
on va
en
trouver de manière
particulier
collégiale,
dans
on va
leur
dire aux
éducation.
professeurs, à partir d'aujourd'hui, on s'engage
Après, nous avons le manque
à
absolu
être assidus, à
de
être
toilettes
ponctuels.
pour les 1700 filles de notre école. Ces filles sont obligées de tourner dans les maisons des alentours de l'école ou
Ceux qui
de
n'ont rien
carrément
à dire peuvent
abandonner les
baisser
cours pour
la
aller à
main.
la maison se soulager,
Allez-y.
ce qui leur fait perdre
Oui.
énormément leur temps d'études. Notre projet a commencé avec une enquête sur l'hygiène menstruelle, puis l'identification des cibles et l'élaboration du plan d'action, aussi l'exécution du projet. La première phase était la sensibilisation des acteurs clés de la communauté. Il s'agit des enseignants, les chefs religieux, les organisations de défense des jeunes, des droits des jeunes filles. À ce niveau, tout s'est très bien passé et nous avons eu le soutien des uns et des autres. La deuxième activité a consisté à sensibiliser les jeunes filles de l'école sur l'importance de l'hygiène menstruelle aussi la nécessité de bien prendre soin des toilettes qui leur seront construites. Voilà. Aussi, la troisième activité a consisté à la construction de toilettes proprement dites. Cette phase a été marquée par des difficultés, mais nous avons fini par triompher et construire une très belle toilette avec eau et électricité. Merci.
Thank you so much, Nadia. That is like, wow, we can see the photos.
Merci.
D'accord.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Nadia,
Okay,
for sharing the project. You're very, what do you call, you're very brave to like stand up and be the voice of young children in your community, of young girls in your community and your school. So thank you so much. I'd like to welcome our directors. Oh, our director, Dr. Fred, who has joined us from Nairobi. Dr. Fred.
Oh, Ikram, sorry to interrupt you, but I think it would be best if we start with the questions
Oh,
first.
yeah.
Maybe then our directors can build upon their
Oh,
reflections.
yeah. So I'd like to ask Arshak, sorry, some questions. Arshak, so how did your project foster empathy and encourage children to put themselves in other children's shoes, and also how did your project contribute to social change, and what was the overall experience? What was your overall learning experience as a young person implementing a project in your community? So Arshak, when you're ready, you can answer those questions. Arshak, are you here? Hello, Arshak. Can you hear me? I think I can move to Maria.
Ikram, I think he had a little problem with his connection, and now I made him co-host again so he can talk. Arshak, could you try to turn on your mic again to see if it works?
Yeah, sorry, I had a poor connection and that's why I left accidentally. Yeah. So to answer the question, I would like to say first and foremost, it was really surprising because there wasn't really any need to encourage the young children because as soon as they heard about this wonderful project that we had in mind, they immediately accepted this little challenge, and it was like they were ready to get to helping people, and it was really wonderful. And I think that this project contributed in a way that many others, even adults and other children, can see that it isn't really no big powers are needed to help people. So even a group of children and some adults can make a big change, and I think that the biggest lesson is that everybody, if they have a goal in their head and in their mindset, then everything is truly achievable. And especially with the world state that we are in currently, I think that's the best thing that we can do to help others.
Thank you so much, Arshak.
Thank you too.
I'd like to welcome Maria Eduarda. I have some questions for you. Maria, can you hear me?
Posso?
Okay. What were the main challenges you faced in trying to get the adults on board to support you for your project? And also, from your experience, how can adults effectively promote child participation and empower children to drive social change?
Bom,
Should I repeat?
sobre os desafios, foram muitos e sempre foram em torno dos adultos. A gente, infelizmente, teve que recorrer à parte política do nosso país, porque a gente não queria se envolver muito sobre isso, mas a gente acabou se envolvendo e a gente teve até uma conversa com o subprefeito de Parelheiros, que cuida da região, e ele foi até um pouco assim, bem desconfortável, bem. Ele só se colocava como ele fosse o melhor de todos e tal. Só que a gente foi percebendo nessas conversas que, tipo, ele não tinha feito o que ele prometia para a população. Tanto que essa parte do córrego que a gente estava nesse projeto era a única parte do córrego daquela região que não estava com a obra correta. E aí ele teve as falas que não podia entrar maquinário lá, que era muito difícil, mas na minha visão, eu acho que independente da dificuldade, sempre é bom melhorar a vida daquelas pessoas, até porque nós não imploramos por ajuda, né? Eles estão ali, foram designados para ajudar a população. Então, foi muito difícil, tipo, os adultos escutarem a gente, porque eles olhavam a gente como um bando de jovens que não sabiam de nada, mas mudando a visão, a gente sabia bastante. E a gente já tinha conversado também com os adultos daquela região, que eles falavam muito que eles estão há anos tentando melhorar aquela situação, só que nunca foi resolvido. Então, acho que o maior desafio foi talvez as pessoas acreditarem na gente, os adultos que a gente foi buscar ajuda, acreditar que nós estávamos realmente nesse projeto. E eu acho que talvez para melhorar esse desafio, né, dos adultos acreditarem em nós, seria espaços como esses, projetos como esse que a Arigatou proporcionou para a gente, que possam dar voz para crianças e jovens, porque acho que sem espaços como esse, a gente não pode falar abertamente sobre as visões que a gente tem do mundo, mesmo a gente não tendo muitas experiências, mas a gente pode olhar, nós, jovens e crianças, conseguimos olhar o mundo, os problemas ao redor da gente, com outras perspectivas, além de coisas negativas. Então, eu acho que seria sobre criar espaços e também os adultos acreditarem realmente com ações nós, nos projetos que a gente proporciona, que a gente cria, e é isso.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you. You really were very brave on this project, and we as the Arigatou team, we're very proud of you for standing up and telling people in your people that live around you that whatever that is happening is not correct, and standing up for your rights as a person who lives there. So I'd like to ask you one additional question. So, would you how would you like the adult people or representative from Arigato International to support you to make the sewage company a reality, like for you to implement your project actually for you to make it happen? How would you like people to support you? Would you yeah.
Bom, eu até esqueci de falar que nesse processo inteiro, a gente também foi buscando outras pessoas para ajudar a gente. E a gente até conseguiu uma vereadora aqui de São Paulo, mas por questões políticas também a gente não conseguiu realizar esse projeto, porque ela estava realmente interessada no nosso projeto. Então, eu acho que ajudaria, assim, da questão política não tem como mudar, porque é uma coisa muito fora do nosso alcance. Mas eu acho que seria, tipo, buscar mesmo ir atrás, porque como a gente também tinha pouco tempo para realizar esse projeto, a gente também não conseguiu pressionar mais. Então, acho que como os adultos são até um pouco mais levados a sério que nós, seria legal, tipo, os adultos irem atrás, conversarem mais com os políticos, porque também foi uma questão muito só sobre política, no final das contas, que não era o que a gente queria. E talvez se tivessem adultos ali mais presentes, teria sido outra coisa assim diferente, teria dado até um pouco certo ou meio caminho andado. Então eu acho que mais essa coisa de pressionar e ir atrás com a gente, porque só a gente não deu muito certo. E eu acho que seria mais levado a sério se os adultos estivessem juntos.
Okay, thank you, Maria. I'd like to give the platform to Nadia and ask her some questions. Nadia, can you hear me? Okay, Nadia, I'd like to ask you, how was your experience in addressing sensitive issues, and how did your project help break taboos in your community? What message do you have for other children and other girls to drive change and address causes of poverty in their communities?
Tout d'abord, il faut noter que dans notre communauté, l'environnement communautaire était très hostile à toute idée qui parle de menstruer. Le statut de la jeune fille dans notre communauté est tel qu'elle ne peut pas porter ce genre de projet.
Oui.
Ça, c'est les difficultés qui existaient dans la société avant même la réalisation de notre projet. Après, dans la réalisation de notre projet, nous avons été très inclusifs. Nous avons présenté le prix à toutes les autorités de notre communauté qui avaient pris l'engagement de nous accompagner. C'est ainsi qu'ils avaient lancé une collecte de fonds pour nous aider. Nous avons déposé l'argent de la construction des toilettes au niveau des autorités en attendant le résultat de la collecte de fonds. Mais après des mois nous avons compris qu'ils voulaient nous écarter du projet et le réaliser à leur nom, à des fins politiques, ou tout simplement de détourner l'argent. C'est là que j'ai pris la disposition avec notre mentor, Mr. Kadri. Nous avons récupéré l'argent et faire la construction. J'ai beaucoup appris déjà. Nous avons, à travers les sensibilisations, nous avons présenté des sketchs qui parlaient sur les menstrues et aussi l'abondance des écoles. Du coup, grâce à cela, beaucoup de gens se sont réveillés et puis nous ont pris l'engagement de nous aider dans ce acte. Ici, le message que j'ai à l'endroit de nous jeunes, c'est un appel de responsabilité pour le développement de leur communauté et d'avoir plein de bons projets pour aider leurs prochains. Merci.
Effectivement.
Thank you, Nadia. thank you for sharing your project and for being, for being so vocal, standing up for the rights of young girls. Thank you so much. That is very brave of you, like to stand up and tell people we need a bathroom for girls, to talk about menstrual hygiene at a very young age. Thank you so much, Nadia. So I think now we get to Dr. Fred, or Reverend Fred, sorry.
Merci aussi.
Welcome.
Um,
Welcome.
thank you very much for great presentation. I just feel like saying, wow. After hearing all those great things that you've done, I can only say congratulations and well done. I'll just share a few things regarding the need for empowering children to bring positive change to their communities, some of it you've already talked about, especially when you're talking about the challenges that you faced, and you've taken note of this. And I believe, and much more after listening to you, that empowering children is a fundamental necessity. And it is not an option. It is something that we must do, because empowering children to lead social change through collaborative action is not just an aspiration. It's a fundamental necessity in breaking the cycle of poverty. Because as we've had today, children with their unique perspectives, boundless creativity that we've listened to today, and unwavering enthusiasm can be a powerful agent of positive transformation in their communities, as we've had. And I took note of Nadia's message, the children take responsibility. And in the brief time given to me, we will look into 4 ways that child-led initiatives can help break poverty cycles, and also explore 5 ways to amplify and support their experiences. Starting with, I would say that empowering children to lead in social change fosters ownership and responsibility. I've listened to you and you talk with a lot of responsibility. You talk about there's some strong ownership, there's accountability. And I believe that your active involvement in addressing these community challenges that you've shared with us today cultivates commitment, resulting in sustainable solutions and increased accountability. It's like handing children the key to our community's problem-solving treasure chest. The photo you see there is one of the children presenting a poem at an online child dignity event in Kenya. Look at the confidence and the ownership, a sense of ownership that child has. That is what happens when we empower children and we involve them in what we do. Secondly, I'd like to suggest that engaging children in transformation of the community issues like we've had today encourage innovation solutions by children themselves. We've listened to how children bring fresh and innovative perspectives to problem solving. They're unbridled. They've got great imaginations and creative thinking that leads to out-of-the-box way of thinking that sometimes surpasses what adults can do or adults can consider. And so I believe that by encouraging and supporting children's initiatives, like the Children's Solutions Lab does, we tap into a wellspring of creativity that can address not only immediate, but long-standing issues that contribute to poverty. I remember in one of our events during the Academy Children, SDG Academy for Children, a child came up with a very creative idea of a robot that eats rubbish. I think it is Maria that talked about the dump that they were trying to get rid of, but this child came up with a robot that eats this rubbish. Now, it's only a child that can be that creative. By denying children and not engaging them, we shield off some creativity that only children can bring. And then thirdly, I believe that it also brings a strengthened community when children are involved, because child-led initiatives inherently involve the entire community: inclusion, participation. And by this, it fosters social bond and a sense of unity among community members. Now, the picture you see there is a tree planting activity during our End Child Poverty at 10 campaign. You'll see that there's a scout, there are other children from the SDG Academy for Children, and the person wearing green is actually a policeman trainee. All the community working together, and of course, it's me there with them. When children lead initiatives, they inspire others to join in, creating a collaborative atmosphere that enhances community cohesion and resilience. It's like a community-wide effort to nurture positive change. Because when children are engaged, most likely their parents, their guardians, and adults that have worked with them the way we've had today will be involved. So the children can gather the community as they engage in a positive community and social change, including ending child poverty. And then the last bit here is empowering children to take lead. Such kind of activities, active participation in social change projects empower children on multiple levels. They gain self-esteem. We've listened to the children speak today. We've listened to Ikram leads this particular webinar. It's because of the confidence and the essential life skills that a process like this and their involvement create in them. As they witness the tangible impact of their efforts, they develop a sense of urgency and efficiency that can be transformative in their personal lives and future endeavors. It's as if they are becoming the leaders of their own destinies. Now, what you're seeing here is a child addressing the guests at the African Children's Summit. Surprisingly, this gentleman here, who is listening attentively to the child, is Professor Jaffe, the Vice Chair of the UN Committee on the Rights of the Children. And this lady here is Najad. Najad is the Special Representative of the Secretary General on Violence Against Children. In this meeting, there were African Union representatives. There were people from the government. There were so many adults and so many children. But you see, this young girl is at the center of the attention because of the empowerment when we engage children and the opportunities that come out of that. Let me then move very quickly to talk about the 5 ways to amplify and support experiences from children, because we've heard today that the children are also saying that we need adults to walk with us. And I think Maria said that if one thing they need is adults to walk with them, to accompany the process. We've heard it also from Ashak. We've heard it from Niger on how they worked with adults. And sometimes for those doors to open, we need adults to engage. What are the 5 ways in which the adults can engage? 1 is mentorship. Adults can serve as mentors. Experienced individuals can help children navigate challenges, as we've had today, refine their project ideas, and I believe that they worked with the adults to do that, and ensure their initiatives are well executed. And I see it more like having a wise elder guiding a young explorer on their journey of change. What we see there again is a learning session as the SDG Academy for Children in Kenya. What is on the ground is the child's initiative in trying to come up with a sustainable city, but there's an elder adult trying to help her and asking her some very analytical questions, and they're working on it together. So mentorship will be important. And secondly, we will need financial support for children, with children. And we've talked about how these children were able to put in some of their money, but at the same time, there was an outside help. Funding is critical to sustain and expand child-led projects. We need grant-making organizations. We need donors. We need philanthropic institutions that can play a role in providing the necessary financial resources to bring these initiatives to life. What you see there is Poverty Solution event in Nepal. These children came up with piggy banks where they save money that they get from their parents and maybe other adults. And eventually at the end of the year, they break these piggy banks and they give 1/3 to those who are needy as part of their contribution towards ending child poverty. And they give 1/3 to their parents and they keep 1/3. Now, that was a creative venture that came from children. And I believe that this piggy bank is where small change leads to big changes. But they need us to put in some of the resources. Thirdly, learning together with children. I believe that incorporating child participation and social responsibility into formal and informal education system can equip future generations with the knowledge and skills required to lead and contribute to community development effectively. It's like attending a school where they teach you how to make your community a better place. That is, again, one of the SDG Academy events, and Nyambura, one of the coordinators of the Children's Solutions Lab, is learning with children. Fourthly, advocacy. Advocating for policies that recognize children's rights and their role in community development is essential. Legal policy changes can create an enabling environment for children's-led initiatives to flourish and receive support they need. It's like a mission to change the rules for the better, and these children are the champions of the change. Think about a school that does not have a bathroom for girls. Should not be allowed in today's world, and yet it was there. So we must advocate for some of these changes to change, some of these inequalities to change. But sometimes it takes the voice of a child, the way we've had today, but we need to accompany them. There we have an awards giving session of an SDG Academy for Children. And then on the other picture, you're seeing children presenting their recommendation to Professor Jaffe, the Vice Chair of the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child at the African Children's Summit. Children were leading the way, and they were saying that some of these structural things must change. Lastly, we must share and amplify our stories and the stories of the children. Imagine children being featured in a news article, headlines with a title, Young Change Makers Transforming Communities. The experiences and success of children leading social change initiatives should be celebrated. And once again, I thank you very much, those who have been coordinating the Children's Solutions Lab, for this webinar, because we are celebrating these young champions for what they've done. And not only celebrated, but must also be shared widely. We must amplify these experiences. And this can inspire others and create a ripple effect of positive change through various channels, including media, conferences, and online platforms. We can showcase the incredible work children are doing to drive community development. It's like they have become rock stars in social change, and we must accompany them in this. As I end, we celebrate you, and these are some of the Children's Solutions Lab 2022. You've done a great job. So, fostering ownership and responsibility, encouraging innovation solutions, strengthening community engagement, empowering children to take lead, and we must mentor them. We must put finances and look for others to come and work with us, learn with the children, advocacy, and amplifying their experiences. I believe that empowering children to bring positive change to their communities is not just an idealistic notion. It's a practical and essential strategy for breaking the cycle of poverty. By providing children with the support, resources, and recognition they deserve, we not only address immediate community needs, but also nurture a generation of leaders and change makers who will continue to tackle poverty and its root causes. Because, my friends, they can be the change makers of today, and future is in their capable hands. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Fred, for your great presentation. And you're right, the children, if they're given the necessary support, they can become the future leaders of tomorrow. And children are capable of coming up with projects. They're capable of bringing change. They get support from adult people and the community if they like support the kids to do projects. I believe we can change our communities and we can bring change to the entire country. I'd like to welcome Eleonora. Eleonora, if you can hear me, welcome. Yeah, we're ready to listen to you.
Thank you, Ikram. I would like, first of all, to start in thanking everyone that presented. So, Arshak, Maria, Nadia, I think your stories are very powerful, as well as the stories of the other 120 children that were mobilized during this time with the Children's Solutions Lab. So, you know, they couldn't all share today, but each and every one of them really contributed with courage, with passion, and with very relevant projects to transformation and change in their communities. I'm going to address two very specific questions that are very much around how supporting child-led activities and how creating spaces for meaningful participation can help with nurturing positive values, but also can help with life skills. And I want to put that also, this discussion, into a broader context, which is the context where we're currently living and where we also see a very strong need to transform education somehow and to make education responsive to the challenges that we have in this 21st century, but also to maybe make education more focused again or refocused around values and around life skills and around all those active citizenship skills that we have seen our young people display today. And now, why do we want to focus on these? So nurturing values, on nurturing life skills, because we know these are essentials to transform our societies. I mean, we do know that we live in extremely unequal societies where there is injustice, where there are unequal opportunities and marginalization for many of us. So how can we tackle some of these problematics? And I think a lot of the answers are actually in the project and in supporting meaningful child participation. I mean, we have seen it in the story from Armenia. The story was born out of the disasters of war. And we all know in war, really the most vulnerable for many reasons are the children, when they are directly experiencing war or when they are wounded, as Arshak said. They are really the ones that are bearing the consequences of decisions that are made very far away from them and that are made by adults. But in this, the group that Arshak was with, they really managed to find a spark of hope, and they really managed to put their energies together, to have the courage to really go behind their pain, behind their suffering, and focus on hard work that could benefit others. And one sentence that you said, Arshak, really stuck with me, because you said, the poor people to which you gifted all these products, they couldn't believe that all this work was made by people and children that were suffering for the loss of relatives and for the loss of their homes. And I think this is something that really stuck with me, because I was thinking, you know, about the question, how do you nurture value? And this is the best way. I mean, the natural sense of empathy that was created, not only by the children that worked at this harvesting project, but also by the other children at the receiving end. They felt cared for. They felt that somebody really went into their shoes and had this strong sense of empathy that really sparkled this action. And I think this is the best way. I mean, we always say we cannot teach value. This is impossible. You have to live value, and you have to model values. And I think you young people coming together and showing with your strength, with your ideas, with your energies, that you can always do something for someone else. I think this is the best way to nurture value. And in the process, you also learned a lot of skills about harvesting, about making marmalade. So there was a lot of learning of things that are also maybe traditionally being lost a little bit because they're not taught in school anymore, but yet they are skills that are so essential to keep us together. You working at a project, you are exchanging, and these spaces, they don't become only spaces to bring a project to fruition, but they become spaces to talk together, to learn from each other, to have fun, to really also unload. So this project that you all taught together became a center of many things, certainly a center to share, certainly also a moment to speak about the violence or to speak about the joint challenges that you had. And this built a stronger sense of community and contributed to transformation, including caring for one another. And I think, Maria, this is also what I learned from your project. Nobody really forced you to go and experience and to really take it into yourself, to go and visit the authority, meeting with other adults so that you could find sponsors. I mean, you saw that somebody was living near a dumpster, that this was unhealthy for them, this was unsafe. And so really you felt this calling to do something for the other. So this shows a very strong sense of courage, of caring for others, but also a lot of that creativity that Fred was mentioning, right? Okay, what can we do? This has been like this for years, and the adults that were supposed to take care of this didn't do it. So what can we do? How can we mobilize and really taking it out of your personal time and make it into admission to change? And I think in this process, Maria, you also learned many things. I mean, you learned how to present your ideas with a stronger voice, how to agree all together, to collaborate. And these are, again, they're all skills that you cannot learn in a book. You have to have the opportunity to participate, to build together projects, to be strongly engaged so that you can make this happen. When Fred was thinking about this sense of empowerment and of confidence, this all comes with the practice. You have to have the space to practice this, to be listened. At the same time, you also have to have the courage to go and present your ideas. And this is, of course, much easier when adults make these spaces more conducive and more open to child participation. But even when the challenges are there and your stories presented these challenges, I think what your stories shows is that with perseverance, with commitment, with trying to find also within the group of adults, those that are open to listen, those that are open to support, these are the right strategies that can really lead to transformation. And in the case of Nadia, this is also where she started. She started with sensitizing that community, with taking a topic that very often is a taboo and is not spoken about in the community, take it to the people, take it to the students in the school so that they can understand. They can really understand that the construction of a toilet in this case is not a toilet per se, but is really about the right of education, the right of equal opportunity, the right of access to a safe place so that you can practice education. So there are so many rights of the child that come to play. And you do need to feel empowered. And very often we speak about active citizenship in school. But this is what active citizenship is. You notice an issue, a problem around yourself, and you put yourself together to really try and to find solutions. Now, I know that all of you were able to overcome the challenges linked to realizing your projects in different ways. But I want to start and look a little bit at the similarity and also at what made these strengths. I think in trying to address the challenges, you all in the end went to a cooperative approach, a co-construction approach. So you really understood yourself with a group of young people and children you were mobilized, needed to work together with the adults to make this a realization. And when we talk about child rights and the right of participation, there is a tool. It's a very old tool. It's called the ladder of participation. And it's a ladder with 8 steps. And this tool was developed a long time ago, and it's nothing magical, but it helps us to understand where we are in promoting child participation and how can we improve. So this tool is useful because it can help us look at the challenges, put them into perspective, and see how to overcome them. What is interesting in this tool, there are some types of participation that we often see that cannot really be considered participation. They are more tokenistic, or they are more manipulation of children that are just shown but not heard, that are assigned to a specific role, but their voices aren't really heard, or their recommendations aren't really taken seriously. So in all those stages, we don't have really participation. But then as we go up in the ladder, we can see that children and young people are consulted and their ideas are included. And in the 7th layer of these 8 layers, we can see that actions are totally led by children, so without the participation of adults. But for me, what is interesting is that in the 8 layers, so the layer where there is more participation is when actions are co-designed and co-developed by adults and children together. Because this is actually the mirror of our society. This is what has to happen to really drive transformation. We cannot have adults working in isolation alone. We cannot have children and young people working alone. But the best way to really catalyze transformation is when we can find spaces for intergenerational dialogue, for sharing ideas, and then for bringing those ideas to fruition together. And to this, Maria, I think is also your appeal, what you said. You talked about we need other adults to put pressure to the authorities, to the municipalities, so that they can help us in this realization. Also, when Fred was saying we need other adults to understand they need to unleash resources, they need to unleash funds for youth-led and children's-led activities. So this cooperation is very crucial. And when we are looking at how we remove the barriers, it's very important that, children play their role, but that also adults play their role, and they sensitize other adult people around them, but they also commit themselves to create sustainable spaces and spaces where there can be meaningful participation of children. And I think as every adult in this room, in Zoom today, we have to keep asking ourselves for anything that we do. Are we empowering children right now? Or for any reason, are we actually being a barrier to their participation? Sometimes we do this because we want to be overprotective. Sometimes we do this out of not knowing what would be the best way. But we adults also, of course, come with many biases, with many fears. So we really, I think, this first step of self-awareness and asking ourselves, am I really promoting children participation today? What could I do better in this journey to remove the barriers and challenges for our children? And certainly, it's always a good practice to go back to the children and ask themselves. So I would like, you also to go back to this question and tell us how can we do better in removing the challenges and the barriers to child participation? How can we do better also to amplify these stories and to make sure that child participation becomes really the normal? And to this, I also want to say this is children in many countries are 50% of the population. So if we exclude children from decision-making, from participation, we're really excluding a large part of the population. And this will bring to decisions that are not sustainable and that are very often also not relevant for our societies, and that will keep enhancing inequalities and injustices. So I think I wanted to stop here. I do believe that to nurture values, to nurture life skills and active citizenship, child-led and youth-led initiatives are the best way to go. I believe that we have to help the education systems to include these more and more as opportunities that schools offer. And as well, when we talk to our civil society colleagues, we have to make sure that these spaces of co-decision can really become the normalcy, and that when children want to implement their projects, they don't find so many obstacles. Because I know you have a lot of energy and courage and passion, but it is discouraging to always hear no. And even in some cases, as Nadia was saying, to have your ideas and your collection of funds hijacked by adults. So we have to be more open to that. We have to learn together, as this is an important journey. So thank you, Ikram, and back to you.
Thank you, Eleonora. Thank you so much for your words and for encouraging the children to keep on doing what they're doing in their communities. I'd like to welcome the speakers, the children, if any of them, the young leaders. I don't want to use the word children. I'd like to welcome them to ask any questions to the adults, and also the adults, if you have any questions to ask to the young leaders.
Ikram, mine
Yes.
still a question, but I just want to hear from the young champions. And the question to them is this: if you had just one thing to tell adults today, the adults that are here today, one thing, what would it be?
Okay. I think I have a question. As the young people think about that question that Fred asked, I have a question for the adults here. My question is there a way the awardees, the children who win these awards from the Children's Solutions Lab, is there a way that they can be trained before the projects are implemented? Like, is there a way, for example, is there a way Arigatou International can offer some training for the young people immediately after they have been awarded? Like, immediately they have been declared, your project has been chosen, you're going to get funding. Is there a way, at least there's some training? For example, in my case, we didn't have any training. So we were so, like, as the young people, we were so confused, like we were like, how are we going to do this? How are we going to, like, a lot of things. And as much as we got a lot of help from the people in the community and from adult people, we didn't get like necessary training before we started our project. So I'd like to ask the adults who are here today if they can tell me if it is possible to have a training for the young leaders who are implementing projects in different parts of the world. Yeah, that's my first question. Thank you.
Thank you, Ikram, for the question for Arigatou International. If you allow me to answer, I think this, as I mentioned in the beginning, when we launched this, it was an experiment. It was a laboratory. That's why we wanted to give it that name. We also wanted to explore how we could promote effective child participation. And in the process, the process itself taught us a lot about how we could effectively and meaningfully do that, and where we could see the weaknesses in the process where we had to improve. And something that we also realized was that it was a learning process for all of us, for us as an organization. And I think it's always like that for community members, educators, or the adults in this side trying to relinquish power to young people. And it's also a learning for young people on how best to do it. I remember conversations that I had with Maria Eduarda from Brazil and her group that were very enlightening for me, that I was learning a lot from what we were having, from what we were sharing and the experience they were having. And something that we realized is that it's not enough to just provide funding for a group. You also have to provide an opportunity to share knowledge, for knowledge sharing. So this has been, we have got many lessons from this to improve the way we work, but also I think the experiences that the young people have had here, it's a great learning, not just for us as an organization, but for us as members of the community, on what we have to, of the opportunities that we have to create and the learning experiences that we have to create for young people. So yes, we would like to create, we are working on different learning opportunities. We are trying to build, for example, an interfaith learning program for young people that we hope will tackle this, will address this need for capacity sharing and capacity building. I would like to pass the floor to Arshad, because I think, Arshad, you had something to share too.
Yeah, if it's okay, I would also like to answer to the first question given by Mr. Fred. And I think it is a very important question, and especially as we also heard from the other adults, that the encouragement of the adults is very important. I think the most important thing that I would say to the adults that could potentially help the children to overcome some obstacles and do something to help the society would probably be to speak up more and encourage the younger generation, because if not, that is the only way I think the young children can truly be helping the adults as well, because as we also heard, in some countries the children are the half of the population, so it's very important that we also receive the help from the newer generation and we build a future for each country of the world. I think that's the most important thing, to encourage the children.
Thank you, Arshad. And also, Ikran, on that question, I think Fred also partially responded when putting in perspective 5 things that adults can do, and the mentoring was one part of that. And mentoring is indeed a kind of circular process, right? Whereby the mentor and the mentee, they learn together, they learn new things and also new ways of thinking. And I think you are right, this is an important component for the future of the Children's Solution Labs. But in general, as many of us today are supporting child-led projects and children participation, youth participation, the mentoring part is important. I mean, as I said, the 8th layer for child participation is when we co-design together, when we co-decide, when we co-implement. It's that complementarity that makes the wholesome of the transformation. Otherwise, there will be always somebody that will be excluded by what we're trying to do. So I think complementarity is the key, helping each other. There is some value in autonomy of children and youth developing on their own and self-learning. But when we are talking about societal transformation, it's really a whole society approach, and that complementarity that you mentioned about it, it's very important to retain as one of the key factors that can contribute to transformation. Thank you.
Eleonora, just a
Thank
quick
you.
note for our colleagues from Arigatou International. Someone please make Maria Eduarda co-host so she can turn on her mic. Please, Paula, could you make Maria Eduarda co-host? And you can please also make GNRC Niger co-host, as they would like to share some comments. Thank you. Ikram, go ahead.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Eleonora, for clarifying that issue. I'd like to see in the future Children's Solutions Lab, I'd like to see other children having trainings and being able to implement their projects better. So I'd like to welcome Nadia. I think she was raising her hand before. I can see also Arish, but I'd like to welcome first of all Nadia and then Arish. Nadia, if you can hear me, you can turn on your mic and share your comments.
Merci. Moi, ce que j'ai, c'est un cri de cœur. Notre pays, le Niger, traverse une crise importante. Il y avait eu un coup d'État depuis le 26 juillet. Depuis ce coup d'État, la communauté internationale ainsi que la CEDEAO nous ont infligé des sanctions illégales et inhumaines. Et dans tout ça, les plus touchés sont les jeunes. Si on prend sur le plan éducatif, il n'y a plus d'électricité à cause de ces sanctions. Et nous, jeunes, nous n'arrivons plus à apprendre nos leçons comme il le faut. Ce qui fait que nous avons un retard académique. La nuit aussi, la nuit c'est pire. Il n'y a pas d'électricité, on est là, on dort seulement et on part à l'école. Il y a un énorme retard. Sur le plan sanitaire aussi, les médicaments n'arrivent plus à rentrer à cause de la fermeture des frontières. Sur le plan alimentaire aussi, je peux dire que les jeunes sont devenus des malnutris parce que les nourritures ne viennent plus et ce qu'il y a ici aussi, c'est cher. On n'arrive plus à manger, à être comme on est avant. Et je demande à Arigatou s'ils peuvent nous aider dans ce sens le plus vite possible pour qu'on puisse relever ces défis. Merci.
Thank you so much. I'd like to ask the adults, Eleonora, Fred, do you have any comments in regards to what Nadia said?
Thank you very much, Ikra. Thank you very much, Nadia. We've been following the situation in Niger, just as we followed other areas, whether it's Middle East, Ukraine, Sudan. And it's true that the children are the most affected in many ways. It actually breaks our hearts, and we've talked about it at the leadership of Arigatou International, looking for ways in which we can engage. One is just an accompaniment in solidarity, definitely trying to advocate where we have a voice. I had somebody asking, does this organization have any connection with the UNICEF and the UN? We try to use all the channels that we can. And then maybe through the GNRC Niger, we can have more conversation on the sideline, also inviting the GNRC team colleagues to find out ways in which we can specifically stand by you. We'll reach out to you and try and engage in the most appropriate way. Very closely with that on the 19th, and you'll be receiving more invitation and information. We are organizing a global prayer for the world children, especially in conflict areas like Niger. And we will be encouraging you to be part of this, but we'll definitely reach out to you the situation that affects children are very much at the center of Arigatou International. We will reach out. Thank you.
Ikran, I would like to take the opportunity. We have just 7 more minutes left, and we have been having a lot of nice interactions in the chat. I hope our young speakers were able to read the chat and the comments that were left there. I thank you, our friends from Shanti Ashranam from India, who have shared many inspiring comments. And I would also like to read one from Brazil. Maria Eduarda was supported by a very committed organization, as all of the children here, as Arshak was supported by a committed adult, and as Nadia was supported by a fantastic teacher. And we can see that as how important it is to have committed adults behind this, like doing a partnership with the children. And I had the pleasure to hear the fight, the efforts that adults behind these projects also put to support the children. And I would like to read the comment from someone from Brazil. This is Bruna, and Bruna was the facilitator who supported the group of children. And we had very insightful reflections together when we were through the process of the implementation of the project. And she shared some comments here, and I would like to read them. I will read them in Portuguese so Edmundo can translate into English. But Bruna says, bem, foi excelente sua fala, Maria Eduarda, foi muito importante trabalhar com essa juventude que vem ganhando cada vez mais consciência do seu papel na sociedade. É importante demais termos um trabalho tão sério como o da Arigatou, para que os jovens saibam que podem ocupar esses espaços. Majoritariamente ocupados por adultos, e que esses espaços estejam abertos. There are other comments, very, very nice, congratulating the projects of Nadia's project in Niger and the project of the other 2 young people here. So thank you all the participants who have been sharing your comments in the chat. Ikran, I think we should now give the floor to Arish. Arish, another fantastic young person. I'm happy that you are joining us today, Arish.
Am I audible?
Yes,
Hi.
yes, we can
Am I
hear
audible,
you.
Ikran? Okay.
Yes, yes,
Hi,
I can hear you.
Sandra. Ikran, hi. Please in the faces.
Hi.
And thanks for the opportunity. At first, I have to thank some of the volunteers. Sorry, because I have some interruptions with my network issues, so that I can't hear all our volunteers' voices. Arshak, he have been harvesting dry fruits and providing them to the poor ones and the ones in need, and that's an appreciable one because he have been volunteering for the good deeds, and I personally thank him for what he's doing. And Nadia, the service of this girl to her society is a most prominent one because making up this bathroom facilities is not an easy task because it's a basic need and which is lagging in most of the places. And she have created a two-way platform for that because she said she have been doing this fundraising for this initiative. In this, she has been volunteering herself to that and letting others to help for this initiative. And her inputs to the youngsters, I really appreciate that responsibility. We have to take responsibility as an youngsters, of course, because I think the responsibility doesn't comes by age. It comes by an experience, comes by making an awareness. And thanks for that input, Nadia. And the presentations done by you, Sandra, and Mr. Fred. And these are the inputs and these are the takeaway from this session because the presentation that you are presenting, Sandra. It's just tempting us daily to do more good deeds to the society. And as our Mr. Fred's presentation, it's an insight for me because I can take these inputs and I can implement these solutions in my society. And thanks for the stage and for the social activity service. And I personally thank on behalf of every children from Shanti Ashram, and thanks for the stage.
Thank you, Arish.
Thank
you.
so much, Arish. I remember him from, he was in our group in 2020. Thank you so much, Arish, for sharing your comments. I can see Nadia, I saw your hand was raised. Is there anyone else who has something to say? I'd like to wrap up now because
Ikran, I think it would be interesting just to know if Maria Eduarda would like to share anything else.
Yeah.
Okay, Maria Eduarda, I didn't.
Also Arshak.
In case.
Eu só queria agradecer pela oportunidade e falar por todo o meu grupo que a gente aprendeu bastante coisa em pensamento crítico, em buscar nossos direitos, e eu espero que possa acontecer outras coisas também, outros eventos como esse, outros projetos, para que as pessoas, os jovens, possam também fazer igual como nós, né? Ter essa experiência e essa oportunidade. Muito obrigada.
Thank you so much, Maria. Thank you everyone for joining us, and it was very inspiring to listen to everyone, to listen to Arshak, and also Maria and Nadia. You're such amazing people, inspiring, driving change in your communities, and I am proud of you. And also every person here right now is proud of you, and I'd like to urge you to continue doing that and to continue using your voice to create awareness in your communities and to also empower, future younger people. And I think we're coming to the end now. I'd like to welcome. Is Nyambura here?
Yes, I am.
Yes, Nyambura, I'd like to welcome you to share your comments and to wrap up the meeting for us.
Thank you, Ikran. You've done a wonderful job moderating today. Warm greetings, friends. This has been such a wonderful session. It's been incredible to listen to your stories of change. Thank you, everyone, for joining us and participating in this important conversation. We've heard from our young leaders from different countries, Arshak from Armenia, Maria from Brazil, and Nadia from Niger, Ikran from Kenya. I'm confident that each of us has learned something new, and we've been inspired and challenged in a positive way. To our young leaders, thank you, obrigada, shukran, merci. You've inspired us. You've shown what it means for us to work together as community and the power that we have to achieve something great and incredible. We also recognize that this would not have been possible without the adults, some of whom are here with us in the chat today, and others were not able to join us. So we appreciate every adult, every organization that supported this process and made it possible for us to experience the change that you've been sharing us today. Going forward, I'd like to briefly share just 3 opportunities you can look out for and you can be excited about. The first is we will have a new round of the Children's Solutions Lab next year in 2024. So be on the lookout for that on our Arigatou International website. The chat moderator will put the website here on our, the link to our website here. Be on the lookout for that, where we will be inviting children groups from all over the world to develop solutions tackling the most urgent needs in your communities and sharing these proposed solutions with us, Arigatou International, so that we can consider how do we work together to address these solutions. The second opportunity I want to share is that we have free learning resources as Arigatou International. Some of them include an online course on how children can meaningfully participate and make a difference. The online course is available to adults and it's available to children and youth. We also have the Learning to Live Together program and many other rich resources which are available to you. We're excited to share them with you. Once again, please go to our website and our social media pages, find out how you can engage with that. Lastly, last but not least, the third opportunity I have is to welcome you to consider joining our network. We call it the Global Network of Religions for Children, the GNRC in short. The GNRC is open to everyone. It's open to individuals, young people like yourselves here. It's open to adults. It's open to organizations. It's open to schools and communities. By joining this community, we'll be able to work together more in the future. So all this will be available to you. We will send this information as we are sending the recording. You'll have access to these opportunities I've just mentioned. My final comments would be to say, start where you are with what you have, do what you can, invite others to work with you. You'll be surprised how much we can achieve. Together, we can. Once again, we appreciate you. Ikran and Sandra, back over to you.
Thank you, Nyambura. Thank you, Ikran, to do this amazing dialogue possible. Thank you to the young leaders. We are always inspired by you. Thank you, everyone. We are wrapping up now. Thank you to our interpreters and a big clap for all of you. It's been a pleasure all this time working with all of you and having this conversation. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Bye-bye.
Bye.